I think there's one question in particular that this community wants answered, and it's on tomorrow's City Council agenda, item number 125, whether or not they're going to fire Officer Christopher Meyer and the other officer that was involved in the attack on the Ames Harper family, and what will be done to discipline and hold our police accountable. Today was more talk about talk, and we've been talking for a long time with this case, with the Harris case, with the Edward Brown case. We've been talking and talking since Michelle Cusseau, since Remain Brisbane. We've been talking. I don't think we want to talk anymore. We want to see action. And the city has a lot to answer for. On Monday, in fact, we'll be bringing forward one of the 14-year-old defendants in the Jacob Harris case, who was beaten by police and held in custody for 48 hours before his parents or a legal representative was allowed to come in and talk with him. He was also questioned. So that's something like right out of when they see us. But I think the people to speak to this definitely is Mr. Ames and Ms. Harper. They're living through this. I think to ask them whether or not they're satisfied with tonight's meeting will go a long way to answering what I'm sure are many of your questions. But I think on behalf of the community, for the most part, total disgust. And I mean, to have to share a room with neo-Nazis from the Patriot movement is just beyond, it's just beyond belief.
I feel like in this meeting, a lot of people were saying we need to stand by our police, we need to stand by our police, but we're not against the police. We actually feel like we need the police to make sure our communities are safe. But when they're stepping out of their boundaries and putting fear into our communities, that's when there's a problem. And they've been doing it for a long time. Our videos just brought light to the situation. And every other day you see there's another case of someone coming out saying that they've been attacked by the police. People have been scared to say something. People have been afraid that if they say something, the police might try to kill them because it's shown that they've killed people. And they covered it up and they just use lines like we fear for our lives and stuff like that. That's their getaway call for killing people. So it's very fearful when you're fighting against the police or anything. We're not against them. It's just there's a lot of them that are bad, and there's a lot of them that makes the whole police unit as one look bad. But if I feel like if they start to clear those officers out, there will be a bigger outlook and there will be trust restored back into our community.
Trayvon, I want to ask you this.
Before we do, we have a second victim of Officer Meyer. I want to give this young man an opportunity to talk about that and how he feels about this meeting. Step right up in here. Go ahead, you got it.
Could you start with your name, sir?
My name is Dante Patterson.
Please spell it.
DantePatterson. Basically, I was assaulted by Officer Meyer yesterday. He's been in the news as of lately. I mean, not yesterday, I'm sorry, last year. 2018, January, was assaulted by him. He falsified police reports just like he did with Trayvon. And just as far as this meeting, it's just a whole bunch of just back and forth. I mean, I could tell when someone's trying to game you up, trying to throw some game at you, trying to run you in circles. I can tell. And at the end of the day, it's just they need to get rid of the us versus them mentality and the whole blue code. Good officers don't say anything when they see bad officers doing something. If you turn your head, you're just as guilty. So that's what we need to do. Instead of all those policies and procedures, we need to just stop the us versus them mentality and just all work together. First thing police do when they're under fire for attacking someone is try to blame the other person. That's not right.
January of 2018?
Yeah, January 15th.
So I want to ask you guys this. The police department is saying they're holding these meetings. They're talking about a civilian review board. They're talking about a survey kind of as a proactive way to get a handle on whether it's excessive force or not. Do you feel like that is enough, what they're discussing in this meeting, what Chief Jerry Williams is saying she's doing?
Well, if they apologize for what the officer did to us publicly, they already see something wrong. So why do a survey when you already know what's wrong?
Well, they say they want the public's input. Do you feel like they already know
I
that?
feel like they don't even care about my children. My daughter, just the other day, the police came into our apartment. She ran in the house. Mommy, the police are scared. She's scared. It's not even about us. It's about my children. Like, she's got to deal with that. I have to deal with that. And they just think everything is a joke and a game. It's not a game when it comes to people's children getting guns pulled out on them. Like we're not nothing, no human being.
What is the point of all this if when the police officers get caught and they need to be disciplined, the chief has no power to fire them? We have a police chief that cannot fire or discipline her employees. There's something wrong in the 5th largest city in America when the chief of police has no administrative authority to discipline our officers. Fire them and give them due process. If they deserve their jobs back, let them prove that. But in the meantime, these families continue to be damaged and harmed by this, and the chief is a hostage. We feel sorry for Chief Jerry. We do. She's a hostage to the police union, and they're never going to let her go. They got a gun to her head.
What needs to happen right now?
They need to fire the officers in this case. They need to fire the officers that were involved in the Cusseau matter. They need to fire the officers involved in the Brown matter. They need to tell the county attorney to charge the officers who shot Jacob Harris in the back with his murder, and not a 14-year-old and a 19-year-old and a mentally ill 20-year-old. We need action. We want the same kind of justice that people expect when they're abused by the police in New York, in Los Angeles, and in other progressive cities. What we don't need is a regressive city policy that makes us all hostages and victims of the police union.
What do you think about some of the reforms that they're talking about right now?
They've had these. Listen, we already have a civilian review board in the city. We already have a use of force and a personnel review board. We have review boards. We've already told them about body cameras. We've already talked to them about sensitivity training and de-escalation training and diversity training. We have talked about two-man patrols. We've talked about, every single thing that they're talking about came up in their internal report in 2015 and 16. Some of you all were there in 2016 when we gave them the 12-point plan for peace, reconciliation, and reform. They have all of these same recommendations. This meeting is a bunch of malarkey. It's a bunch of BS.
So, Reverend, I want to ask you, you mentioned about the review boards. They are reviewing the Ames Harper case when it comes to special investigations and PSB. These take time. Are you saying that these officers should be fired before that thing is complete?
I'm saying at tomorrow's council meeting, agenda item 125, the Phoenix City Council can instruct the city manager to fire the officers who were involved in assaulting the Ames Harper family, and they should do that. And if they don't do that, then they want to create conflict between the people in this city and the police. Because we have had enough. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired of the city not being able to discipline these police officers. Tomorrow they have a choice, they have a chance. They can fire the officers who were involved in the assault on this family, or they can continue to let us be hostage to the police union. What's the worst that can happen? They get sued? They're getting sued anyways. The officers can't sue them for more than these families can, and we'll bankrupt this city if we have to, and we're well on our way. The budget is very tedious here. It's tight. The answer is they should fire those officers. Give them due process. Let them appeal. Let them go to the EEOC or their union and complain that they were wrong for violating this family's civil rights and holding that one at gunpoint and throwing the mother belly first into a car and kicking the father's legs and cussing them and cursing at them and totally disrespecting them and violating their civil rights. This is the most disgusting performance of police professionalism in the history of our city, and the whole world's seen it, and these officers can't be fired for it. The city should be ashamed of itself.